The product started about 3 years ago. Some retired police officers approached an award-winning inventor, Woody Norris, who lives in San Diego, California, with the concept of developing some different type of device of a way to control people suffering from mental health crisis or narcotic-induced psychosis. They watched on TV like we all do. Every other news program comes up and talks about force involving law enforcement, particularly force involving those people in crisis. So they approached Woody because Woody, one of his most renowned inventions was LRAD, the sound diversionary device that's used on cruise ships, used by the military, and used by some police departments to divert people's attention based on sound. And so they'd asked him if he could develop a handheld device using sound to control somebody's movement. He worked on it a little bit and realized he couldn't do that. It was too hard to control, but he could do this. And he developed this remote restraint device. Basically, it fires an 8-foot Kevlar cord at 640 feet a second from a distance of 10 to 25 feet. It's propelled by a half-charged 9mm blank, so it sounds like a gunshot. It's not the same decibel range as a full charge, but it does sound like a gunshot, and it does divert somebody's attention. On the end of each cord is a small metal pellet. You'll see it on the person that we're going to wrap in a little bit. You'll be able to come up and check it out. You can also see it on the mannequin. You can also see it in our booth inside. At the end of each pellet is a 4-pronged hook. So if you're a fisherman, like a treble hook, but it's got a 4th prong. Again, comes out 640 feet a second really fast. But basically, when you're 25 feet away, it starts to slow down. So it's not the type of device that if you fire it, it's going to travel for 100 yards. Once it gets to about 30 feet or 40 feet, you really see it slowing down. It's at about 200 feet a second, and it'll drop by the time you get to about 60 or 70 feet. A lot of people ask questions about the neck. We know, just like tasers, you're not supposed to shoot somebody in the head, you're not supposed to shoot somebody in the neck, but in some cases people move and that happens. This doesn't have the inertia to wrap around somebody's neck to choke them. That's usually the first question that always comes up. Will it hurt somebody? Will it choke them? Will they not be able to breathe? And that's not the case. We're not suggesting at all that you take this device and use it to replace any of the less lethal devices you already have. We're not suggesting at all that takes the place of taser, a 40mm, OC spray. All of those fit into our use of force spectrum and are necessary. This device is meant to be used early in an encounter to control somebody's movement, to control their arms, to control their legs, particularly those dealing with a mental health crisis or narcotic-induced psychosis. Don mentioned where I come from, obviously a big department, LA County, 10,000 sworn, a little over 5,000 in patrol. And our use of force in Los Angeles, over 60% involve people in a mental health crisis or narcotic-induced psychosis. And I'm sure you all are encountering those type of things across the country, just like we've seen. You'll see some of the charts where we're in a little over 60 agencies right now. This has started about a year ago. And those agencies that we reach out to, I can tell you, New York Police Department, every 4 minutes they respond to a person in crisis. Fresno, California, 40% of their calls for service, people in a mental health crisis, uncooperative individuals based on narcotics. And so that's what it's meant to be used for. Some agencies, though, have adopted it in a different approach. I don't know if any of you have seen some media attention from Fort Worth Police Department in Texas. They deployed it last week on a SWAT call out. Their intent all along, and we have some video if you'd like to stop by the booth, we'd be happy to show you. Their intent all along was to use it with their SWAT team so that when they deploy gas and they get somebody out of a barricaded suspect situation, their first encounter would be to wrap them up to divert their attention, to control their arms and legs so they could safely take them into custody without using additional force. That's what they did over the weekend, and as a result they got a lot of attention because armed suspect in an apartment came out, they deployed it, didn't have to use any additional force, and took them into custody.